Everything.
Question.
Everything.
Question.
Everything.
Question.
Everything.
Question.
Everything. 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 Question, babe. Up in your mind.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Supermassive Podcast. My name is Harrison Thacker. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and good friend, Jason Sirotin. Jay,
What's up?
appreciate you as always, man.
Appreciate you. Good to see you.
Always, man. We are on episode 6 now of the Supermassive Podcast. 6
Oh my.
episodes in.
I think we're ready for syndication.
that would be great.
Yeah,
First, we got to make some money off of this
right,
thing.
exactly. You need one
Nah,
sponsor, a sponsor. But speaking of that, sponsored by Vaseline. Vaseline Intensive Care. It's got you covered.
yeah. Hilarious. We do not, in fact, have a Vaseline sponsorship, but all due respect to
To
KY,
Vaseline.
whatever it is. Yeah,
All due respect to KY.
isn't that the name of the brand, or is
No,
Vaseline?
it's Vaseline. I don't think KY makes Vaseline. Vaseline doesn't make KY, do they?
Yo, bro. Okay, maybe I just had a. I don't know. Maybe I
Man,
had them
maybe you
backwards.
just got a dirty mind.
Oh my
Who
god!
makes
I don't know why I
KY
thought.
jelly? Also, KY jelly, who uses that? And it's not Vaseline, it's Reckitt Benckiser, a
Oh yeah,
sub
no.
brand of Durex. Figures. Figures. I don't want
That's
Durex to sponsor us.
nah, man. We need that Magnum money.
Yeah,
we
those are for
need that
teeny
Trojan
weenies.
Magnum.
Give me some of those Durex. Hey, that leads nicely into our conversation today.
This does not at all lead nicely into our conversation. Nah, man. What I was gonna say, I think one of the things I appreciate the most about our podcast, I was telling my girlfriend earlier, I was like, matter of fact, I was telling my girlfriend, and I talked to Reed, our head of social. Over at Supermassive, because was cutting some of the clips from earlier episodes, and he was like, "Yeah, man, these our talks are very entertaining." And he was like, it's not a lot of people who kind of have these discussions in this context. And I think what you get is just two guys who just don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? We just have no really kind of speaking, about certain, like taboo subjects or
We're
whatever.
just like Kanye.
Yeah, definitely transparent. I was about to say some shit that I know I can't say.
Can I say something about Kanye real quick? Because
Yeah,
marketing
yeah.
wise, what
Mhm.
he just did with his Super
Super
Bowl
Bowl.
ad
Yeah.
and what he did with Yeezy.com and selling
Yep.
everything for $20,
Yep.
he is a genius. He is a genius. I saw an interview he just did on TMZ that was so fascinating. He was just like, he, they said, do you take back the things that you said are anti-Semitic? And he goes, blacks are Jews. He just started shouting that. He's like, when are you going to understand? I just love him.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, and if you look at world history, like he's he's saying these things for a reason. It's excuse me, not all the things he said he's saying for a reason, but I think though we can't
You just got
like
canceled, bro.
I don't give a fuck. Like, and I feel like, I mean, shit, what you gonna take from me? I ain't got nothing. You know,
Please cancel me. I'll get some press.
I get something, right? But no, I don't even like necessarily invite that into my life. But I think this is a perfect segue into our actual discussion for today. And we're just talking about the concept of race, like racial awareness in the workplace, right? Historically, culturally, and personally. And I think that you use somebody like Kanye, the guy thinks on a level that's like incomparable to the average person, let alone even the unique among us. He's and I don't think you can necessarily boil it down to just he's crazy or mental illness. Like, I think there's an ethic behind some of the things he says, and particularly to be a man of color in America. One of my favorite, I think it was James Baldwin. I could be wrong. I'll do the double check
The
just to make
things they
sure.
carried, writer.
Right. He said, um, to be a black man and conscious in America or self aware is to be constantly fucking irritated. He didn't say it in those exact words, but it's true. And it's so many different layers as to why that's the case. And I think a great place to start, something that we had a discussion about earlier today, what is exactly Black History Month, right? What does it mean? So when you hear Black History Month, Jay, what does that mean to you? What is your understanding of it? How it functions? When you wrap your mind around the concept of Black History Month, what is it to you?
God, that's a great question. I want to be real honest. I've never wrapped my head around it.
Yeah,
I've I,
no, yeah,
I've never like sat and thought about it. I always
mhm,
give it respect, right? And I celebrate the history. I mean, it sounds so weird, but I fucking love black people, right? Like I just like I love Mexicans. Like there's certain people that I just like that kind of person I just love. I have a connection overall, I think, with certain people. And yes, just like I don't know. There's a kinship between so respect and love. And but when I think about what it means, it's so different because of our conversation today. So like now I'd never thought of it the way that I thought about it today. And I'm fine sharing the story um, because that's what kind of led us here. But like, yeah, I don't think I'm articulating it right because I don't know what to say about Black History Month other than I celebrate it by acknowledging it and learning about it, like and taking in the content that comes out around that time and immersing myself in it. And I think that that's respect to the culture.
right. No, I get you. So I think to I hear what you're saying. To boil it down, like you said, it's almost like you don't necessarily know what it is at its core. You just know it's something to respect. You're wanting to make sure that you're being either inclusive or having the proper sensitivities to something that may not directly involve you, so that that's you just know, like you said, it's something to respect. But there's like a lot of layers in it. Speaking just as a person of color, that there's so many different ways you could dissect it if you take the time to actually put it in perspective. So I'll start here. I want to share this clip.
Well, can I say
That
something real quick? Just real
Yeah,
quick
yeah.
on that.
Do you think? Yeah, yeah, no
Because what
problem.
just came to me is that the reason that I couldn't come with an answer and I was kind of stumbling is because I have no deference to any holiday, right? Like I don't give like I don't. You could have asked me the same thing about Christmas, Valentine's Day. I'll tell you, I respect Black History Month more than I respect Valentine's Day. I give it more care and attention than I do any of the ancillary holidays. So, because I started to think about it, it's like, man, because Valentine's Day tomorrow, I was like, I don't care about Valentine's Day at all, but I care about Black History Month. So that says
I
something
mean,
about me, right?
well, look, I'm gonna play this clip, and then I think it really helps to kind of put things just in a different perspective. And yeah, I think we should react to this.
Black History Month you find
Ridiculous.
why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No,
Well,
come on, tell me.
I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
No, I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man. And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan.
Okay.
I love Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, he will. The dude's a good orator. But it's kind of like something you said before. He's an actor, right? Like ultimately, I'm not familiar, so I don't want to be ignorant. I don't know what his background is in terms of like philanthropy or what he does or anything like that. I don't know him as a person, but I found that clip to be interesting because I found myself in agreement with some of what he said. I believe that when I look at Black History Month, when I was a kid, I remember being in school, and I went to schools in Decatur, like 100% black. I didn't have a white kid in my school until we moved. My parents moved us to Rockdale County, so that was in like 7th grade. So I didn't go to school, socialize, anything with like white kids until then. So this was but in both black schools and white schools, Black History Month, it was almost like a greatest hits album, and they play the same greatest hit album every day. Every year. It's the same 5 or 6 sort of, for lack of a better word, like socially approved people who are meant to like represent blackness. And what reason is that for? Right. So when I look at it, I liken it to when let's say, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, right? It's like a symbol. It's this sort of thing that we socially put a name on, but that doesn't really mean anything, right? It's like an ability for like it's almost like a quota list, right? All right, well, when you talk about Black History Month and we got to fit this shit in 28 days, right? That almost sounds just on the top end less. It's almost like something you're tolerating, like it's a chore. We got to find time to fit giving a fuck about this thing in. Now, personally, I don't care like if you virtue signal, I guess that's what they call it, right? Like this sort of like, I'm giving a fuck because it's been legislated for me to give a shit, right? I
Social
never
justice warrior.
Yeah, I don't respect that because that's just you doing something that really it doesn't mean anything, right? Now, I take somebody like you who just from the things you've said in this conversation thus far, it's clear that that's just not your experience, right? So you've probably never had to really think about this kind of shit beyond a certain point because it's just what difference does it make to your day to day, right? Until, and this is what I mean when I say how I can have respect for what you do. One, you're very honest in your discussions, so if you don't understand something, you'll say it and you don't try to pretend like how you said, like you're a social justice warrior or anything. It's like, hey man, like you said, I've never had to really consider this. Two, when it's time to give people seats at the table, in the 10 years that I've known you, it's always been fair and above board. It's always been, I'm trying to help. You've put not just myself, but several people I know in position. Now, just because you've done that for a couple of black people, it doesn't mean anything in the racial discussion, right? That's an interpersonal sort of experience. And that's how I judge everything, off of interpersonal. Because
Right.
if you look at Black history, you said it perfectly. Like Valentine's Day, like Grandparents' Day, like Father's Day, it's this made up shit that only serves for companies to monetize it, Exactly. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
It's religion. It's everything else along those lines where it gets like prostituted or exploited in a way that usually doesn't go back to helping anybody of color. So that's like one side of it. And I don't want to down that. There's more layers to get into, but just from there, I want to give you an opportunity to react to the clip and just with that kind of given context, what that makes you think about or brings to mind.
Here's the thing. I'm easily swayed in the moment. Right? Like I
Right.
heard that Morgan thing and I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. He's a black man. I must believe him, right? He's a respect. That's like kind of how your brain acts. Oh, it's Morgan Freeman's voice. It must be true, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
you and I were having a conversation today, and I just want to rehash it so that because it gives so much context to it. But we were talking about original gangsters. And I brought up, or somebody brought up, I can't remember. They're like, oh, it's perfect. It's Black History Month. And I was like, oh, great. Yes. And you were very quick, and rightfully so, to teach me a lesson, right? Which I had never even thought about. Can you explain how you explained it to me so I don't butcher it?
Well, yeah, and I think what it really speaks to is like a good way to like make it make sense. What's the difference between culture and history, right? Culture is a set of traditions, it's a way of life, right? It could be born of a million different influences, and just because of like whether it's location, whatever, it's easy to confuse tradition with like a sense of nationalism or ethnicity. But there is a difference between culture and ethnicity. Because I'm a black man, right? And you might think if you talk about the OG, like the original gangsters, right? That concept, right? So what are we looking at here? We're thinking the common denominator in that discussion. You look at drug dealers, pimps, right? Gang members, shit like that. And that's not to say that there's no integrity in those cultures, but that is not exclusive to an ethnicity. So when we say, oh, it's Black History Month, let's celebrate blackness by celebrating this culture that's rooted in like criminal behavior. That is not, it's two different things, but it's easy to get confused because a lot of the messages that we see on a daily basis show black people celebrating that. It's more popular or more entertaining. Even look at, somebody like Morgan Freeman, right? You probably have you seen the movie Wanted?
No.
Oh, you never seen Wanted with back in the James McAvoy with Angelina Jolie, they can shoot the bullets around the corner and
No, that sounds awesome though.
oh yeah, no, it came out in like the early 2000s, but it was like a popular commercial film, and it was one of Morgan Freeman's bigger ones, right? All that, but you know maybe like a lesser known film is Death of a Prophet when he played Malcolm X. But I say that to say, when you say you're easily swayed, yeah, man, everybody is, right? That's why that's why entertainment is $1 billion industry, because you get charismatic people to sell stories, and I don't think he was selling a story in that clip. I think he was speaking his piece. It's just, I don't agree with
That's what got
everything.
me.
What you
Well,
mean?
that's what got me is that, it felt authentic. And
Right,
I know
exactly.
he's an actor, but that felt like it was coming from him. It was reactionary. I like the sentiment that like I'm not a white man and you're not a black man. We're just men, right? But at the same time, right? They're descriptive words. They're adjectives. So it's hard not to see those things. It's hard. I think it's when you start separating it because of race. But like that's the thing. It's like race is so weird because you're like
Yeah.
looking around and it's everywhere, and like you can't avoid. Neil Brennan has a great clip where he's talking
Mhm.
about like, you know, we're designed to fear things we don't know.
Yeah.
So if you're going around a corner in the jungle and you see a puma jump out at you, you're going to be scared. It's the fact that you're a human, and when you come across things or people that you don't know or not around, your mind might have an instinct because of what the media has done. It might say, oh, watch out, that guy's a criminal. The non-asshole in you has to, at that point, acknowledge that was my brain. That is not me. That is like something reactive. And then you say, no, asshole, you have to turn around. Because all of our brains work that like we make instant judgments and we make these decisions. And it's our job to take that and not expand on it. And I just think that's a really interesting way to look at it.
So, I hear you, and it's like, because it's like you said, I think in the perfect word is like, it's convoluted, right? And there's so many different takes you can have. Like, there's no one right answer, really. So like, let's use the examples that you gave, because what I was going to say with Morgan Freeman and what I feel like really illustrates this point right there, you have a black man, I'm a black man. We don't 100% agree on the definition of I agree with him about Black History Month being kind of ridiculous, or that it's this sort of, it's more performative than it is like equitable or like meaningful in a
It's
real
like
way.
it's the white guilt on a large scale.
Yeah, and then but to the point about qualifying all of these things, what did he say? I agree with him. This is all of this shit is the world's history. We have to remember that like black and white is some shit that was invented to, all of that is like social constructs. It's all things that were invented to cause division between us. Like you said, it's seeing something that looks different than you and being averse to it or being xenophobic just naturally, right? And that, I don't know that that's a natural thing. I think that's learned over you. I think that's like programmed. I think it's intentional, and I think whoever put that system in place is like did it so well. Because think about it. Think about what we're saying. Black history is really world history. So if we're going to look at all world history the same, right, and give it its all just due, then we should be able to do that, right? We should be able to talk about what actually happened, right? What's the implications therein, and then use it to make us better. Unfortunately,
Well, there
though,
you go.
that's not the
Right.
system we live in. We live in a system that, so I'm gonna show you this real quick. Um, this is the clip we had started before.
CRT, what does CRT stand for? CRT, what does CRT stand for? Critical Race Theory. For me, CRT stands for Curriculum Respecting Truth. Curriculum Respecting Truth. What other kind of education should we be offering other than a curriculum that respects the truth, that tells us that the first discoverers of the United States of America came from Africa?
I mean, that's what I was just about to say, is that the problem is that nobody respects truth anymore. It's getting harder and harder to find truth, and it's messy. So yeah, I agree with we have to push the truth out. Somebody has to be the order of truth.
But see, this is why it's not anything that you can solve in an hour-long discussion, not a 5-hour-long discussion. It's so convoluted. It's so many layers to it. But so think about this though. Have you seen like DeSantis, schools in California? They are literally fighting and have succeeded in some cases in banning critical race theory from any type of education, any type of curriculum in their educational system. So they're literally outlawing it to teach the reality of like not just slavery, but I mean everything that connects to like present day influencing factors that influence even to this day, right? And it's against the law now because it makes, and this as a black person, how I see it, it makes too many white people uncomfortable, right? So you'll see in these parent teacher conferences, there are parents who are like screaming at the school board, like going crazy. I didn't pull the clips, but I can, I should have, but they're literally like, it's like feeling real January 6-ish, if you catch my drift, in terms of like the
Ear burn.
chagrin that they feel, right? It's feeling like very sort of like tiki torches, like, like, man, why are you this rabid about this thing? And why does the truth hurt your feelings so much? You know? And,
Because they're
and this,
scared.
right. But like scared of what? You know?
They're scared of losing their place at the top. It's fear. It's all, in my opinion, it's all driven by fear of losing what they think they have. And with the critical race theory stuff, it's stupid that people are making such a big deal about it in those school meetings. But until the politicians stop talking about it, that's what's going to happen. They're just riling people up for attention.
Yeah, for sure. No,
I
they
bet if you
create a
ask those people if they really know what critical race theory is, I bet if you ask 10 of them, 2 of them might have an idea.
dude. These are the people who I went to like high school with. Like when I said high school I went to, it was majority white, but it was like, it was still enough black people that like we were, you didn't feel like you were lost or anything. But like for example, when I was in school in Decatur, it wasn't any white people. It was all black. I was the white person. Like, and I say that meaning because of my complexion, I used to get into fights like every day, third, fourth grade. Like, I'm going in throwing them things because, like, the other kids calling me cracker and white boy, shit like that. But with that said, I had the gift of a very strong
So stupid.
household. I had the gift of a mom and dad who were so socially, culturally, racially, everything you could think of. Their awareness for these things were so high that, man, when I was at home, I wasn't just learning about the greatest hits of Black history. It wasn't just Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. All due respect to those brothers, but I was learning about Fred Hampton. I was learning about Marcus Garvey. I was learning about people in our community at the time, like Maynard Jackson, who were doing things. Like, I understood and had a true appreciation for blackness. And then when I'm in school, even though they didn't necessarily in elementary school, they weren't teaching us about, the CIA funding the Iran Contra with drug money that they pumped into black communities, right? But you did have on every hallway was named after a black leader. And there was a mural of them across each hallway. So you already had this pride and sense of self at a very young age. So like I'm not like a lot of folks who experience shit like that, like the being like what's that called, like ostracized, I guess, because of the complexion. Because it's like at the end of the day, the reinforcement was so strong that I still am like biased towards everything black, you know. But when I got to high school and I'm around these white folks, now I told you how I received it from the black schools. When I got to high school, my senior year was 08, 09. You know what happened in 2008?
Obama?
Obama ran his first election. So when people talk about Trump in 2016 and all this shit that's happening now, and just like what you just said, like some of the examples that you gave, like these people, like you said, who wouldn't even know what the fuck critical race theory was if they got bit in the ass with it. These are like the people who I was around, and not just students. I'm talking teachers, parents, all that shit. It was some stand up people who were white there at that time who like stood up for what was right. But I'm telling you, man, it was like fostering a culture of hatred. I was like, I would, and you know me, like the way I talk now, I was talking like this back then because I've always had this like love affair with language, and I always was particular to politics. So I'd be in there, just the kids wasn't ready for me, But the crazy thing was the teachers. Now I had, not to like go too off topic, but I had my AP advanced placement U.S. history teacher, right? So these are the college level courses, right? You take and you get an A in it, and that'll give you credits towards college. He's our AP U.S. history teacher. Just to give you an idea of the type of guy he was. He also wrote columns for like 15, 16 years of the Rockdale Citizen. That was like the local newspaper or whatever. He would write these seething, like just the most white supremacist shit you could ever think of, bro. Like, and we would get into class. I'll never forget. My parents got called up there because I cussed the man out because he was trying to tell me that slavery wasn't all bad for black people. He said, if anything, these are his words exactly, in an AP US history class, slavery was better for black people because many of them were men of no country and they wouldn't have been able to survive on their own. That so these white people who they said in many cases slaves were treated like part of the family. They were given a home, shelter, food, structure, and they didn't have to burden themselves with autonomy. That's what you're teaching in AP US history, right? So
At what
imagine now.
school?
You
This
said what?
guy's this guy kept his job?
Oh yeah, he did. He eventually, yeah, he kept it all the way because he had tenure. He kept it all the way till he retired. But he, yeah, he's still alive. He's I actually looked him up after the conversation earlier today because I knew I was going to talk about it here. I'll send you who he is. But dig this shit though. Before he resigned, you know what he did when Trayvon Martin died? He came up to school and he had a hoodie on, threw the hood on, and would run aggressively up on black students. And then when they'd be like, "What the fuck you doing?" He'd be like, "See, you feel threatened, right?" As if to justify George Zimmerman shooting this dude. And like literally, it was a whole fucking thing. So that's these are
I wish
people.
somebody would have shot him.
That's what I'm
That would
saying.
have been
Nah, and
that would have been really awesome.
you see what I'm saying? Like, and I have the background that I have because of my parents, right? But there were definitely other kids in that class, man, who didn't have that same reinforcement at home. So when this dumbass is just using his position to say these things, man, they know it's not right. They know something don't feel right about it, but they may not have at fucking 16 years old the social and self-awareness to have that debate. I barely had it, but I had it enough to where I knew, man, you ain't just gonna say any fucking thing in here, and I'm not gonna challenge you on it because I know I dare you to call my dad and tell him the reason I'm in trouble is because you said this shit. Because I guess what's gonna happen next, you know. But not everybody has that, so that's why it's like important to really characterize this stuff, especially if you don't deal with it on a day-to-day basis. As black people, we're sort of forced into this. Like right now, like the fact that I'm even having these discussions, I don't feel like you're forcing me to do this, but ultimately I'm
What?
no, I'm saying I don't feel like you forcing me to do this. So I'm just giving that cap, like putting that disclaimer. But right now, I'm having to be a mouthpiece for everybody that looks like me. I'm having to speak at large about blackness, and blackness is not a one-dimensional thing. There are black people that don't have my perspective. That's why I used the Morgan Freeman example. I don't agree with him 100%. So who do we lean towards? Who are we swayed by? And I think, and it's a greater question, like I said, than a 40-minute to an hour discussion can solve. But it's like when you look at it like that, it's a bigger picture. But go ahead. My bad.
No, well, I was just going to say, and that's like to the point earlier. I was like, I love black people, when in essence, I don't love black people. I love black culture because
Yeah,
you
you
can't
love the
love.
things.
I
Right.
love the things that black culture creates, right? And I like the attitudes of a culture, right? Like, so it's not that you love a person, you love a culture. Same reason why there are other cultures that I really admire, but I understand that. I get that point. I get that now.
Yeah.
I
And
have
what
another
makes
question.
that,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, I was just to that point, what can inspire as a person of color, what can inspire like a little bit of frustration with stuff like that is it's like, all right, man, you appreciate Black culture, right? Like how you said, or you appreciate the things you feel like this created. But like oftentimes that is like this like fetishization with our culture. It's like you know what my dad said this weekend because we were talking about something else. I don't remember what, but he said the realest shit ever. He said everybody want to be black till it's time to be black,
Right, but
and
I mean,
that's
it's not a fetish to admire things that come. Black culture has created some of the greatest things in world history. So, like, that's not a fetish.
right. But what happens a lot, and I'm not saying you do this. I just mean what happens a lot is you love like people will love when it's entertaining. They'll love when it benefits them. They'll love when it aligns with their worldview. But the minute that it operates outside of the bubble of comfort for each individual, the minute that it gets uncomfortable, the minute that like you something that you can't wear because you're not black, right? Like I wear my blackness on me. I can't, you know what I mean? I can't hide it and I don't want to. But that means that at a given moment, I could walk into a scenario that by virtue of my skin color, like everything's heightened. That's probably some shit that a person wouldn't admire or wouldn't want to co-opt. But it's like the voices are loudest when we're entertaining, but they kind of get quiet when it's time for like real action or, like if some bullshit happens. Like I said, we get Black History Month.
Yeah, because
We
most
get a
people don't
street,
think about all that shit, man. Most
right?
people
Because you
walk
don't have to.
around going da, 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 da. Like they're not. They're just listening to the music that's created. They're listening to that. They don't appreciate it. So like,
Yeah, sure.
but I feel,
But
but there's a lot of
oh,
people
go
who do appreciate it and do show it respect and don't act like assholes, right? I mean, there's like so many because I
But
don't
it's
want
like,
to be ashamed to say I love black culture. Like that seems weird to feel like that's something bad to say.
but I don't think I'm not shaming like the admiration of it, and I'm not saying again like it's not you because I don't think you fit that
No, I'm trying
archetype.
to
But
understand
a
it.
lot
Like
of
who is it? Like who is it? What do they do?
what do you mean? Like
Who
you
is
said
this
who is what?
person that you're describing? Like what do they do? Who
Oh
are
yeah,
they?
what you just
Like what's an archetype?
shit. I mean, like okay, perfect example. You love rap music, but you don't want critical race theory in schools. That's
Ah, that's weird.
perfect example.
There's
But
so
that
many
happens.
people like that though. You're so right. They'll be bumping. Oh shit. That's
You
so
just
you
described.
gotta learn how to say things so that I can understand them the first time.
But that's but here, this what I mean though. That's the frustration with being black sometimes. Is that man, I don't owe you or nobody else these explanations. I came to these
But how
understandings
are people
just
gonna
like
know?
go if you actually give a fuck, there's an excess of information available if it's something you really want to educate yourself with. It's not
No, that's
me
not
or nobody
realistic,
else.
man. That's not
But it's
realistic.
not but
It's
it's
not your
nobody's
job, but
black.
you're my friend. So it is your
Right,
job.
exactly. No, it's not because it's not your
Yes, it
black
is.
friend's job.
Dude, it
It is
is
not
if
your
you
black. Go
then
ahead, go
don't
ahead.
do it. Like somebody but look, just like I would do anything for you, right? Like if you asked me for anything, if you wanted to know what a fucking menorah is, I would show you, right?
But
Or
the
if you wanted
difference,
to do anything, what's the
but it's
difference?
different
Just because I like your
because
shit and you don't like mine?
no, and I don't. Again, what I appreciate about on an interpersonal level, our relationship is we have a lot of honest discussions. So I know that when we're having this conversation, you're aloof. You're aloof. You're not like what's the word? It's aloof, not aggressive, right? Or it's aloof versus like having a foundation on it one way or the other. But as a black person, bro, like you get to walk around with the da 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 da. You get to not have to think about it because it doesn't affect your day to day. right? Now, personally, I'm just saying what it is. I don't give a shit who thinks it or believes it, because at the end of the day, again, on my personal day to day, I don't think you can legislate feelings. I don't think there's nothing I can tell you now that history hasn't already told us, or just by watching the news and knowing that, hey man, these like certain things happen. There's no it should be enough. If there's enough to question fucking business or the other things that you're interested in, the information is out there. And to put that responsibility on black people, it's almost just like who are you or anyone else for me to make understand? I don't care if you understand. You should want to understand if you give a shit. Right? Like I don't care. I don't to me that suggests
But
that's
there's
almost a
certain
level
things that
of
you would never be able to understand unless you had a conversation with someone. Like
sure.
some of these things evolve, and if people don't feel comfortable having the conversation and talking to people about it, then shit just remains the same. So just like I think white people should ask more questions, I don't think there should be a stigma that, hey, I'm not supposed to teach you, motherfucker. It's like, Jesus, I just asked a question. I just wanted to know. You're saying, well, it's not my job to teach you, but it's like, isn't it our job as humans to like help each other understand? And if somebody's seeking understanding, isn't that a sign of like decency? Like, it's not like
how many
I'm like, you, let me talk to your manager. And while I'm at it, tell me about critical race theory.
but that's what I'm saying though. Just because you do it in a friendly way doesn't mean that that's not the same thing. Especially as a person of color. How many times have I asked you to explain the Holocaust to me? How many times have I asked you to explain why it's not cool to be anti-Semitic? Or how many times have I said something that you could unintentionally take as being anti-Semitic that I would then need to go back? Like, how often does that happen? Right? It's not a like you. We don't.
Well,
I
it's just
don't
more.
put.
Well, it's more accepted to be negative towards. It's more. You can say negative things about white people without it like causing an issue, right? If you were to say
You can
something
say negative things. Wait, 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 wait,
to
wait, wait,
me,
wait, wait. To Jewish people. Because I
well,
said
no,
Jewish. I said teach me about
oh,
the Holocaust. You saying you could say anything or it's more acceptable to speak ill of Jewish people. Is that what you're trying to tell me right now?
no, not at all.
Okay, okay,
Well,
okay,
unless
got
it's
you.
going to get ratings. No, I'm saying no, no, no. I was
Man,
talking about like the white people jokes are very prevalent and open and all around and accepted, which is fine. I have no problem with it. And I'm not saying that other jokes should be fine, but there is an interesting, I mean, you can't ignore those things. There's jokes
no, right.
a-
You're
and
right.
and there's certain things like, look, it's not my job to explain the Holocaust to anybody, right? But I've also
Yeah.
made 2 documentaries about it. So
But no,
it
no, but that's on your volition though. That's not because this part of the social sphere expects it, because otherwise, I mean, if you want us to know, then you gotta da da da. Nah, man, I don't give a fuck if you know. Because you've had my generation, your generation, my parents' generation, the generation before that, and the generation before that, and the one before that, and so on and so forth, to understand and familiarize yourself with these things. And now, me in 2024, that I have to like spoon feed or handhold. But again, I'm not talking to you specifically, because what I respect again about our relationship is that you'll ask questions, you'll do shit, and it'll be stuff that can come off a certain way sometimes, but ultimately, I know you and I know your character, so I'm like, okay, got you. You genuinely trying to understand something. But dude, most people aren't like that, bro. Most people look at it like, dude, what the fuck? I got my own problems to deal with. What the fuck? And you know what? Cool, that's fine. I never was of the mind that anyone outside of people that look like us was supposed to come save us, right? Nobody can save us but us, right? Just like same with everything else. It could take help, but ultimately, like you said, it's just too many people that don't understand our experience. And then if you look at blackness, just think about it on this level, because all of this shit is socially constructed. We're responsible. Not only do we get robbed of a heritage, right? And when we get brought here to America, and when by we, I mean like American descendants of slaves. I don't mean the Moors who like conquered and like ran shit when they got here. But we get here, and then by virtue of our experience and what this country does to race, religion, and all of these other heavy topics that they turn into like a commercial funnel, right? Or it's only there to serve the purpose of commerce, right? Everything gets convoluted. So ultimately, the start of this discussion was, what's Black history? Black history is just another way to act as if the shit that Black people have done in world history has to have an asterisk by it versus what white people have done in history and that we learn about all year, right? Or that's just a part of whatever the general narrative or consensus is on history. All of this shit is world history, and we put all these bullshit modifiers on it. It's like a two-way street, right? On the one hand, I don't respect the inauthentic shit. I don't. To me, like I said, it's more like a participation trophy or something, like a consolation prize, excuse me, versus like something that actually means anything. But on the other end, because so many Black people have this shared experience, we bond over it because of what this social environment that we're in does, not because that's how it actually is. And with that said, I want to play this clip, and this really puts it in perspective, because let me just
It was ethnic group, nationality, empire. And I always try and talk about this. In America, because of the white supremacy issue, race becomes the primary identifier amongst Black people. Whereas in Africa, my name, in other words, my culture or my ethnicity is my primary identifier. In other words, on a continent of just Black people, you have to find another way of differentiating. Let's say I'm in Nigeria. The first thing I say, what's your name? My name is Kunle. Oh, my name is Honora. I know that Kunle is a Yoruba man and I'm Igbo. So before we even go further, we know that there's a difference between us. So that's the first primary identifier. Let's say me and Kunle find ourselves in Kenya. Hey, what's your name? My name is Kunle. My name is Honora. You're Nigerian. I'm Nigerian. So we identify in that respect. Now let's take ourselves to New York City. I see this Black. What's your name? Kunle. You're Nigerian. Yes, Black becomes the third of identifiers. The first is your ethnicity. Second is your nationality. Third is your race.
So now, when we talk about Black history, right? So if we want to box it into this thing where we separate all of it. Okay, well now you see how he just gives this example. He says now over there, because there isn't this weird, like the separation that comes is still respected. So it's like, man, we identify with each other on this basis. But in America, it's not, we don't have a tribe, right? We have like cities or whatever, but it's all shit that's like not really ours to begin with, or that we usually don't have ownership in, right? So you got niggas fighting over blocks, right? You got people who, and it becomes this weird, fucked up thing where like there's like so many other layers to it, from the role that the government has played in this. And I don't mean like conspiracy theories. I mean shit that's like published cold hard facts, from the drug shit to like the CIA actually having actual plans to take down leaders in the Black community. I mean, they literally considered these guys terrorists. So you go in, you uproot an infrastructure, right? You weaponize things like health, like welfare. So you go in and say, okay, well, we done got most of these brothers in jail off of bullshit mandatory minimums for drugs, or we just roust these niggas, or they might just be in there for a crime they didn't commit, right? I'm talking back then, 40s, 50s or whatever. Then skip a few, welfare comes along. Now there is a subsidized incentive to not having a Black man in the house. Are you familiar with how the welfare programs worked and how they, to a degree, still work? The idea was in order to qualify, there could be no male presence in the home. no like adult male presence in the home. So what started happening is
When?
black went any like the welfare, the literally the
That's not
introduction of
true.
welfare
We were on welfare I was on welfare as a kid.
in the 60s. It has
Oh,
evolved
okay.
since then. But when it was first started, you can look up this movie called Cornbread Earl and Me. It's like
You
a
couldn't have
perfect
a
example.
man in the house.
You couldn't have a
That's
man in the house, or if
crazy.
you did, you
It
didn't
encouraged
qualify.
single mothers, right?
Exactly.
That's
So
fucked up.
you
Dude, have you ever read
so you
Freakonomics? That book has so much of that shit in it.
mm-mm, I
Freakonomics.
have
Amazing book. Yeah, check it
yeah,
out. But yeah, that's
check it out.
crazy.
But these are like micro efforts. There are so many bigger efforts, and it's not just black people. The system that we live in inherently fucks things up and does
The
things to
prison
pit us
system?
against each other.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
the pitting against each other. I'm like, that's happening but look, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to ask, I have a lot of questions I just have not had a chance to ask you that
I'm
are
sorry,
written down.
man.
It's okay.
I've been
Okay. So
yeah.
I established on my own that it's wrong to say you love a race.
Well, it's not, man. Here's the thing. Again, this is not something we can't like focus group this and then go to the like marketing team and see what's the best percentage chance
No,
of
I
this
know,
being the
but
right
in
thing.
general,
So this is what I mean, bro. You got to govern your life based on your rules. I can't be the arbiter for how this shit works for you. I could just tell you my experience and how I see it, and then you decide.
that's what I'm
You make
looking
a
for. I just want to know your opinion on it. Like
okay.
I don't care.
My,
To me, you're not speaking for a race. I just care what you think because I value
okay.
your opinion and it will help me shape my own, which
Okay.
is
No, I get you.
reasonable. And I'm not asking you to teach me. I just want to know what you think because
Yeah.
it matters
Well,
to me.
for sure. So the question being, it's not okay for you to say you love a race.
No,
I think,
would
man,
you ever say, would you feel comfortable, like, let's say you really loved Asian people or Japanese. Would you feel
yeah,
comfortable saying, man, I love Japanese people?
no.
Okay. That's all
Because
I
I
wanted
hate
to
when
know.
I hate when I hear people say I love black people, because I immediately think about how you said earlier, where it's like, dude, you don't know all of us, and when you say that, what do you really love? And you pointed out, you
It's
you
culture.
love this culture, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's because I thought about it after I said it. I was like, man, are you allowed to say that about anybody? And then I was like, well, what do I really love about what is it that I love? And I started to
Right.
think through, right? Like, and there's so much of certain cultures that I just love from the food. I
Yeah.
mean, I created a show called Taste the Culture. Like that, there's so many great things about cultures. They're just amazing. Okay. Second question.
Yeah.
You said culture is not part of history. How is culture
No, I said
not part of
culture. No. I said we need to understand the difference between culture and history. Culture is a set of traditions. Basically, the two are not mutually exclusive.
but they're
So,
part of each other?
culture. Well, here's the thing. We have a culture in the way that we operate, right? We have a culture at Supermassive, right? Is that a historical culture? Is it like what
It's based
qualifies
off
it?
history. Yes.
Okay, fair
Our
enough. So there's
experiences.
there's historical there's a historical context to it. But if we're gonna start saying black culture in a historical context, what is black culture in a historical context? Is it black American culture? Is it African culture? Is it black people in Portugal culture? Is it black people in the Dominican Republic? Because there's black people everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So when
Right. You're right.
I'm trying to get
And
out
there's
of the
different
idea,
cultures within that. I see. I didn't even think of that.
yeah.
That is a good point. My question's answered
That's
there. Moving on.
that's why critical race theory is such a big thing, because it's critical thought. It's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, I definitely didn't learn that in school. I like hearing about it. I like talking about it, I like understanding it. because it doesn't make sense to me how you can not like someone because of their skin, like or like their cold. It does not compute. Okay, is Eli
Here,
Whitney part of Black history?
Eli Whitney, the inventor of the cotton gin. I mean, again, like, what are we? I think he's like how I would categorize it. He's just a part of world history. That's the way I would look at it. Because to me, but I get it though. I guess the implication is he revolutionizes cotton picking. They realize this, but wasn't that like born out of necessity though? Like because
So is everything. But what I'm
or was the
trying to
time?
establish is like, okay, well, what is acceptable, what's not? Because the next question is Hitler part of white history? Is slavery part of white history?
But what qualifies white? Because when we
Okay,
look at
white
white
American
history,
history.
no,
I'm gonna
he's not white
let's just
American.
what? Oh, not
He's
Hitler.
not American.
No, I moved on to the slavery part. What do you mean Hitler's not American?
I was like, he's American. He's not American. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is slavery part of American white history?
Yeah, it's a part. Yeah, I feel like when you say
Then why
American white,
wouldn't
it's like
original gangsters be part of Black history?
no,
If we're American Black
because it's
history,
because it wasn't just black gangsters. This is what I'm saying. The two things are not mutually
because there were
exclusive.
only white slave owners. I'm
No,
just
it
trying to
wasn't. It
understand.
was black.
There
Yeah,
were
because it
black
was black
slave
slave.
owners.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, the one. It was. I forget the guy's
Gee,
name.
oh
He was
my!
in Louisiana
You
or
got to be a
something.
real piece of shit to
You ain't never see
subjugate your
Django,
own people.
but you
No,
but Jay in wait, you never seen Django?
no, I like that kind of movie. Really fucks with me, so I've like avoided it. I don't like seeing people subjugated. I don't like I didn't watch Inglorious Bastards either. Like when I know something's going to be, and I like Tarantino, but
But
I've seen a lot of
yeah,
clips.
you know, it was like Africans who had slaves, like in Africa. It was Africans that had other tribes of Africans enslaved, just like it was Jews enslaving Jews. Like there's not a. That's what I mean about it's all world history.
I
This
didn't
is
know
like it
about in
could.
America. So there were black slave owners in America.
Yeah, there were black slavers. Yeah, but it was like obviously that's a rarity, and I can only think of one that I know of. So I don't want to just speak like I don't want
Yeah,
to
it
be
makes
like
me think
wrong,
of the
but
Dave Chappelle skit where he's the black Ku
yeah,
Klux Klan.
yeah, one of the funniest things in the world, man. But but you see what I'm saying? Like when you say is to me, I don't. There is no such thing as white history because America hasn't invented it to make money off of it yet, right? Like it's not. It's black history. So when you say like is slavery a part of white history? Slavery is a part of the world's history,
No, I think that's the
literally.
biggest takeaway for me today. There is no like. I think my opinion now is there is no black history. There's no white history. It's world history.
Yeah, but and to the your point earlier, that doesn't mean that we can't look at black culture, right? We can't look at whatever these shared experiences that we can bond over and not look at it with admiration and the proper respect, which I feel like you do, but it's just like, man, I just thought this discussion was so important because like, man, you know, I'm a person
No,
of
what?
color. I think about color all the
What?
time. Like
What? Oh my god, dude, you're blowing
like
my mind today. Next thing you know,
my
you'll tell me you're part Puerto Rican.
I am this guy. It's funny.
Damn it!
I know you fucking around, man. But man, like as a person of color, usually certain things like I don't like when people talk about triggered and shit like that. It's like, hey man, I was born just a little bit before that whole culture came about. Like the idea of like, you know, like putting so many modifiers on it and like throwing it in folks' faces. I have no problem with throwing black history in people's faces, but it's just like, man, I don't we live with it every day, bro. Do you know that like in our like just in our company, that is so many times where I feel like race plays a role just in our communication. Whereas times that I know that, like, if I was to try to explain a certain thing, or if something's happening, like this morning is just like a singular example, and that's a more extreme example because it was so many other. It's Black History Month, it's all this like extra stuff on top of it. But as the only black male that is like on this, in this partner group, right? There are so many moments where I'm like, okay, I could tell this is like I can tell that there's like a cultural disconnect. If whether it was like if I was to try to explain something that somebody else said, whatever. But it doesn't feel disingenuous, and it doesn't feel like dangerous. It's not like it's usually, and this is what I would categorize you as, it's aloof. It's not having a shared experience. And then it's like, okay, I'm just going through my day and I just happen to do this thing. And I had no idea that it had these implications. Just like same with me. Like I've had that experience too. But I'm just curious,
Wait,
like
I'm confused. Just because I was unclear of the word aloof, not friendly or forthcoming, cool or distant. Is that the right term?
cool. So yeah, but that's not so more so the cool and distant. So when I've always heard aloof, it was always in the context of it's like, oh, I'm just, you know,
Floating.
yeah, it's like I don't know what I don't know, and I'm not
I
like
got it.
pressed. I'm not. You said what?
I said I got it. I got it. I get it now.
Yeah, like that
So
kind
it's
of thing.
me most of the time. So it's me most
Yeah,
of the time.
yeah, for sure. I would definitely say that you're aloof. I feel like
No,
I'm
no,
aloof
I'm the
to.
one making the comments most of the time. It's me.
Oh, no, no,
Oh, okay, that's good.
uh, I would
I
say it's
wish,
kind
I
of.
wish, could you have a counter and maybe like track it for me, log it so that I can study it, and do all these other things to teach me?
But see, if I did all that, right,
That was a
I would
joke
not be.
about you
I
teaching me.
know, I know, but I was just gonna add on to the joke. I would not be a happy camper. I would be like, I would be like, just want to punch everybody. Like it gets tiresome. But you recognize,
I can
I
imagine,
respect.
man. It's just so interesting to me to like all the time. You just don't think, and I've been so lucky since I moved to Atlanta to be exposed to so many more different cultures and races and all of that I've like I have such a much better understanding about where people come from and what they go through. Like, the conversations we've had about just like driving and being worried and or going
Oh,
somewhere my friend, I have Joseph, like,
yeah,
the reason he has a gun and all these things, just like learning about what it's like to walk around in black skin is fascinating because you really don't understand how difficult it is and the obstacles and how much harder it is to be successful at everything. There are so many more things because there's so many bad people all around.
yeah. I mean, man, I think I think we are all living with the karma and the consequences of the system that we're in. And it just produces some pretty interesting, sometimes like footloose moments, But I will say too, man, and I want to end it like this, man. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you, and I personally like pride myself on like I don't identify as a victim of nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't like what I don't want this discussion turning into or their takeaways to be is as if there's some type of victimization beyond what we're all going through. It just looks different for different cultures. Everybody's eating a shit sandwich, man. It's just for some reason sometimes you know black folks definitely can. I would say, just the other, whoever the other is, tends to get it a little worse. But I'm not a victim. You know what I'm saying? I ain't no victim, man. I operate from a very privileged position, which gives me, even more of a like unique perspective on things. So, I just want to make that clear, man. I ain't out here being like, you all owe us this and blah. It's like, hey, man, dude, we all walking around on this rock together. You know what I mean? If I thought you was a piece of shit, I wouldn't be around you.
I'm just endlessly curious trying to figure this world out and trying to understand it. So I appreciate you sharing so much with me. It's awesome, and I'm sure we'll hear from people about their thoughts.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's what I love about this show. I can't wait to see what people like. I mean, it's just interesting discussion, man. I just respect
Nothing
the
but
honesty.
love. And more people
Yeah.
need to have tough discussions, that's for sure. Hash it out.
Yeah,
Get up in each
yeah,
other's
man.
business.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance, well, we can talk about that on next week. I feel like we should make this a recurrent thing, and I feel like it should go beyond just like obviously the Black History discussion made it topical for this, but I mean, shit, I'm sure everybody has a story similar or something, where it's like I feel like it should be a recurrent discussion, almost like one of our series or something, man. Because
Yep.
I feel like this type of shit is
Feel like you're
actually
trying
helpful.
to catch me in something. One of these shows, Jay will say something. I know, and I'll get it on tape. I know it.
Dude, that's hilarious, man.
I'm doing the same.
Well, hey, look, I think we probably did more. We probably had more, or I should say, a better discussion than anything you'll find on CNN or Fox News. What I appreciate about this, man, is that this is not political theater. This is just open discussions. We just being honest. You a man, I'm a man. I respect you, dog.
Thank you.
So,
Same.
with that said, yeah, man. To all of our viewers, or future viewers, man, we appreciate y'all for joining us. As always, man, the Supermassive Podcast, where, hey, man, no matter what we talk about, you can expect some real shit. Obviously, if you guys are looking for digital marketing services or marketing, any other marketing therein, please feel free to visit our website, supermassiveimpact.com. You can get a pretty solid idea of all the services we offer and schedule a consultation with us to get things kicked off. Jay, you got anything else before we get out of here, man?
That's good, man. Have a great night.
All right, you guys take it easy.
Everything.
Question.
Everything.